amazing.
Good job.
I never listen to production anyways. Listen,
So,
I said this before we went into this segment as well. I said it on the previous segment. First pick, it's all about that one because the Nature's Prophet's going to be banned out and then whoever gets Wisp probably. Well, yeah. I think it's still a Wisp pickup. Especially because they can combine it with the Sven. I don't think they're two-faced about, there's a tiny pickup, whatever. I'm just going to go to bed now.
as you were kind of alluding to, though, MVP Phoenix do, in response, obviously get Dire Side. Everyone's kind of preferring Dire Side right now for the Roshan control. I mean, Complexity still...
So there's a plan.
They have without the Wisp.
They obviously have a plan up their sleeve. They expect MVP to follow up with the Wisp pickup now.
Even without the Wisp, they're still incredibly good on the Tiny. They're like the team that has the highest win rate without Wisp.
Again, tracing back to the Major that has just happened. They played Tiny in a lot of games. A lot of these games didn't have the Wisp in it. But Lim just kept on delivering. He actually had one of his best performances without the Wisp support.
It also makes a lot of sense for Complexity with their first pickup. You know MVP is going to be looking for that combo. It's the strength of the second pick. To be able to have something like Wisp and Tiny together. By picking up the Tiny, MVP could move away from it. And actually they have. Like, even with the Wisp Russelback still on the field, they go for the VS very early on.
This is actually interesting, especially because Complexity is taking their time. Maybe they're just using the full duration to think what MVP have up their sleeve and why they didn't pick up the Wisp. Obviously, I think MVP is feeling pretty confident in the performance of Febby on the Vengeful Spirit. I think he did great. I think they feel like they have the counter for Tiny. Maybe they don't actually feel he was that big of an issue last game. A Chen take up. So this is probably what Complexity was hoping for. That MVP would pick into the Wisp and they could follow up with a Chen pickup and maybe put on early aggression where they could push them down. No such luck. I think MVP would be wise to ban out the Wisp now. It's incredibly difficult playing against Tiny Wisp to begin with. And then add on the Chen, which makes Hand of God, double heal, whichever target is tethered and everything, and you can send people back and forth.
Is your lane presence going to be strong enough if you do something like that, knowing that MVP likes to get up in your face?
Yeah, you're talking about two relatively weak laning phase supports. Wisp is good when it comes to the regen, but it's more reactive.
I'm so triggered right now.
I mean, you're going to have a lack of disables. Is it something to be concerned about? I'm still with you. I still think it's a pretty decent pickup, but shouldn't you be concerned about that?
I mean, Swindle is off on his own anyways, so that's not a big issue. So it's all about picking Chessie something that he can play. And a lot of the games that we've seen Complexity play, he's actually been mostly left to his own devices anyways, where he's played heroes such as Lone Druid. We just saw him on a Brood Mother. So I don't think that's something that worries Complexity all that much. And as we all very well know, Deathball is far and away one of the most winning strategies of Dota 2. Alliance has been super successful with it. It closes out games very early on. Complexity realizes and knows that MVP wants to fight a lot early on. They want to push down as fast as they can. Complexity is also on the Radiant side, so it only takes one pick off, and they can actually just push Raxus in 20 minutes. Dire doesn't have that same luxury.
Our second phase of bans is going to feature a lot of offlaners now. We have the Beastmaster banned away by MVP Phoenix. Complexity will go for the Bat Rider and the Drow Ranger. Seeing as we already have the Vengeful Spirit and a ranged core in Invoker, I guess that does make a lot of sense. They're Dire Side as well.
Yes and no.
Roshans.
I think, I mean, it's a safe ban, but if MVP was really thinking about going for the Drow Ranger, would they have banned out the Beastmaster?
5 seconds remaining.
I guess they would have wanted to take it themselves.
Yeah,
There's so much aura stack.
You double up on the aura.
Reserve time.
Triple up, actually.
I was actually expecting them to go for like another control ban, because who from MVP Phoenix really currently deals with the Chen? You got VS to keep a creep away, but like you're not looking at like the old counter. Have we even really seen him in this tournament? Witch Doctor? Like what's happened with him? He keeps appearing in my mind every time I see a jungler, and hello, he's now going to appear for MVP.
This is why Toby is 7k.
Why I am 4k.
7k play-by-play caster?
7k play-by-play.
That's right, you don't need to play the game to cast it.
Witch Doctor against Chen. Pretty damn good pickup. Was there... I mean, there were still a couple of supports. There was at least Crystal Main that was still left that's good against Chen.
I mean, Witch Doctor is definitely better of the two.
Oh, for sure.
And we've seen a lot of games throughout history, actually, where these little bongo drums, stuns, just jump from target to target. The coconuts are really annoying to play against.
Reserve time.
Yeah.
Especially in these early game ganks and skirmishes where two heroes are caught out on a ledge or something, and then doom, doom, doom.
And it's almost like MVP Phoenix are daring Complexity to pick up that wisp. Go ahead. We now have a Witch Doctor.
Oh yeah,
It's also good against that
that's actually
combination.
surprising.
It's not quite a disruptor pick, but I still think it's one of the stronger supports against it.
So MVP definitely wanting to go for that lane dominance.
I want to see also how MVP approached the build of the Witch Doctor, because I kind of feel that tells you the mentality of the team. If you go for these early points up in Voodoo Restoration or Malediction instead, if you feel like this is the point where you get kills, because Witch Doctors, we see them actually getting like first blood moments when you go Paralyzing Cask as well as Malediction early on. So
I feel like that
good
was
rotations.
sort of a flavor of the
It
flavor
was.
of like 2 weeks. It was like Voodoo Restoration, and like somebody went Maledict, and they were like, "Oh, this is pretty good." And a few other people win it, and then people were like, "Nah, let's stick with Voodoo Restoration."
It's good if you're going for like the pushing lineups, because if you had like a Witch Doctor here on Complexity, you would have so much sustain just pushing down the lane. Now MVP Phoenix actually have a sustain while they repel Complexity. And they got enough to actually pull the waves off the tower, because you can have Wave of Terror, you can have Paralyzing Cask.
I really love the mind games coming out from both of these teams. The fact that Complexity starts out with picking the Tiny instead of the Wisp, MVP follows up with not picking the Wisp, and Complexity goes like, well, we'll take the Chen now, ball's in your court, and MVP just responds with, whatever.
I wonder if Swindles has it in his little black book of things like, yeah, of course they're definitely going to do this. I then pick this in return.
I mean, there's got to be some male bravado tied into this. I can just imagine Swindle sitting in there, oh yeah? I'm not gonna take it. There's no way. And all the Koreans are just sitting over in their booth, they're like, this is hilarious.
Spectre's going to be choice now from MVP Phoenix.
Turn to pick.
The Tidehunter definitely would potentially set up a Wisp combination with Tiny, right? It's nice to be able to have some good AoE control, but maybe... well, it's kind of interesting they picked Spectre into the Tidehunter. If they can actually get some sort of good laning phase for the Tide, he's actually a pretty disruptive force.
Definitely, and
shutting
he's
down
also
the
good
Spectre's farm.
at breaking this. When you go these typical 2 squishy support lineups, Tide is really good at going in and winning the team fight straight off the bat by setting up both the kills very early on.
I'm interested to see if MVP Phoenix run this Invoker as a Quas-Wax build to try and control up the Tidehunter in the Chen, like take away that mana very early on, and that's just going to cripple the teamfight complexity.
Particularly since we've seen a lot of these Tidehunters go for the early mech, which means it is a bit more mana intensive.
That's not gonna happen. They have a chance.
It's going to have to
Oh,
it
you're
has to
right,
go on
you're
the Chen.
right. Sorry. Forgot about the Chen.
But that Tide could still have a lot of troubles on the top lane, because if it's not a Quas-Wax, it's actually an X-Sort, the VS and Witch Doctor rotation becomes even stronger, because then you're adding Sunstrike to multiple stuns coming out from MVP with the Haunt on top. And MVP have proven time and time again, they will haunt him the second that thing is off cooldown. They want VS and Witch Doctor in position every time Haunt comes off cooldown.
The things to watch this game early on is definitely how Vengeful and Witch Doctor are gonna move around the map
10 seconds
as opposed to the
remaining.
Chen, and how big of a part he takes. We have seen in previous games that Seafreak is not typically a Chen player that participates a whole lot in the first 5 minutes of the game, prioritizes level on the Chen over just ganging the lane successively. So might be hurtful towards Complexity, but also it can backfire. If they don't get those early kills and have the rotations be successful, then Complexity will stand to gain a whole lot because Chen will have all this farm and level.
With that OD ban out now, MVP Phoenix, they gotta feel pretty comfortable with the Invoker. Because who does Complexity now run against the Invoker that's gonna synergize with the rest of their team?
Phoenix's
An
turn
Enchantress
to
ban?
pick.
Okay.
The offlane Enchantress.
I mean,
there are a few teams that
was
actually run the
definitely
core.
the ban
but-
to go to. Maybe even a bit surprising that they didn't take it. So
Who else is even left for the MVP Phoenix offlane? Almost every offlaner that is normally played is out.
there's a Bristleback that we saw him play yesterday, but there is no Wisp support. However, there is a Witch Doctor to keep him alive.
There's still Darkseer,
Darkseer.
Spiritbreaker.
His turn to
We saw
reign.
Darkseer being played a lot yesterday, but with very limited success, I'd say. Lost a decent amount of games.
Darkseer, I'm a little bit concerned sometimes when I see Darkseer and Spectre, just because you have 3 now cores that are very static in lane, so-and-so. But if you can actually get to the mid-game phase, the sustain offered by the Darkseer when he's able to go the Mech Guardian Greaves route is really potent.
Yeah, with how Spectre is currently being played, it's not the best setup for a kill with the Horned in. At the same time, it's not the worst thing in the world, because when he does Horned in, he'll then have Surge and Iron Shell on the Spectre. So there's both good and bad sides to it.
There's a lot to play with for both sides.
I like the Queen of Pain pickup a lot.
Are we leaning one way or the other when it comes to prediction?
I think Complexity is going to take this one. I'm an avid Chen fan, and I like their overall composition. I think their team fights are incredibly strong.
Well, considering Jacob's going to be wrong, I'm leaning towards MVP. I actually like the fact they've got this early team fight. Even though the lanes are static, I think they're going to play it in a really aggressive style and carry it through.
This coming from the guy that predicted Secret would win and send Complexity last game.
Hey, you were also 0 for 3 in that series as well.
That was pretty funny. Every time Jacob predicted a win for a team, they lost. All right, guys, that is time to get into our game number 2. While you're watching game number 2, don't forget to download the Score Esports app. Sure to check that out, keep up on the stats, everything else while you're watching the game. Let's go into game number 2 with Blitz and Durka.
Cheers, Governor. Cap, you alright, mate? Yeah, not bad. Game number 2 here, MVP against Complexity. Good luck, have fun. Written out in the chat. Let's see exactly what we've got in store for us today. There's Blitz. This Tiny, no Wisp partner for Complexity, but they got the Lion to try and offset the Chen's early jungling.
Man, I don't know why everybody's blaming Jacob. Like, even Toby's trying to get on it. Man, that guy got 4th at a TI. How's everybody just forget that? I'm with you, Milk.
Has Toby ever actually played at a LAN?
Dude,
that's a silly question, isn't it? I mean, I've won a LAN, a UK LAN. It doesn't really count, but, you know.
it's like winning a Korean LAN, man. It's the same thing. We both did it.
We won a LAN. It's fine, right? You know, prize money. It's similar to TI, not too far off.
I do think that MVP, the way that they drafted though, it really fits their style. Just because, again, they want to be able to lane control into parlaying that into the mid game team fights. But this time around, they've got the coL Spectre. Who I think has a pretty high success rate. I think the only time I ever saw it in danger was that series against Fnatic where Bushi was playing the Ursa and he was tearing him apart, but eventually the Spectre ended up on top. But Complexity, they've got really aggressive heroes this game. And for me, it's just how much can Z-Freak do in a game like this? Because I don't think he can really get punished too often. Like, you notice that they sentry that one camp, but other than that, kinda has a free game.
Well, interesting for me is the fact that coL didn't go for the bounty rune steal. He's done it time and time again over the past couple of weeks when he's playing Spectre, to dagger across, steal the bounty, then go up onto the high ground, especially when he's dire side and going for the top rune spot. He really does love that play. But he doesn't go for it this time around. Well, Hansken, he thinks that the range creep is going to be first, but Forev, he's going to get the triple Ion Shell out here and wants to shove the wave as hard as he possibly can.
Yeah, and this is a good move by him just because it makes it really hard for Complexity to do anything about this. Forev is going to sit in the middle of the creep wave, and this is really smart by him. It's a little bit dangerous, but he's trying to get to level 2. And
he's got the Iron Shells. He's going to try and fight this and battle up against Limp, but the DPS Hansken very fast there from Forev, keeps him alive, and Hansken, the double Iron Shell punches, the stun is out, and Forev, who dies first, is the Darkseer. Oh, that was a close one.
I was almost certain at that point that Forev had that. Thought he was going to die for it, but still, I think that exchange, just because it's first blood, benefits
Top lane.
Hansken.
Swindle's okay. I thought he might drop there as well as Febby Dubu, as well as coL on the aggressive once more. We're off to a cracking start already, Blitz. The thing is, the Chen hasn't even moved out of the jungle just yet. So, let's have a look at these lanes before anything kicks off again. Swindle's Tidehunter up against Febby, Vengeful Spirit, Dubu Witch Doctor, coL Spectre towards the mid. It's the 1v1 co-op against Invoker, but Swindle's getting gone on again, just going to get harassed back by the stuns and disables from MVP, Chessie Quap, MP Invoker, and of course we've seen the Z-Freak Chen limp on his pretty famous Tiny by now. Not banned in this series. You know, we've seen people first phase ban it time and time again against Complexity, but MVP feel that they can defeat him and crush that Tiny, while Chessie already taking a bit of manhandling here from MP's Cold Snap.
I think Complexity in a game like this, they had the right idea about how to play against MVP. Just set a blistering pace, and with the tiny Blink Dagger in a game like this, it's especially going to be effective because coL was playing the Sven in the last game, and they had so many melee cores, but this time around, it's a bit different. They've got more team fight. Rather than the Doom, they've opted to go for the Tidehunter, which I really like that adjustment that they made. I feel like the Swindle Doom didn't really fit the style that they wanted to play to begin with, but this time around, all team fight for him.
And then you have the innate blink of Queen of Pain, so not only will you have the Tiny jumping in with the burst damage, but you'll have the Chessie Quap jumping in to try and finish people off as well.
It's just more team fight than the Brood offered as well, and I think it's kind of the right idea in a game like this, and Chessie's gonna get gone on, but it's just the Cold Snap for Harass. He's already got the bottle, so he doesn't have to be too worried about it. I'd almost like to see MP. I know in the last game he was forced to go for the Force Staff, but in a game like this, going for something like the Hand of Midas after getting the phase and...
Phase drums.
Yeah.
Yeah, that has been the build in the past that he's kind of favored. But like you were saying, in game number 1, usually MVP come out of lane stage and they just go and destroy people. But MP didn't have that luxury last game, kind of had to go for, you know, smaller items, go for a bit more utility and try and save himself up. But already, Chen, Mud Golem with a Centaur, so they've got disables, and with a level 2 Lion, might be looking for a gank onto, you know, maybe bot lane, but it's actually the line drawn towards mid for the MP Invoker now. He's got Invoke ready, he's got Ghost Walk. The trouble is there are so many disables and stuns here to keep him on lockdown that Complexity, if they chain this correctly, have a good chance. MP, are you fast enough? Tornado's there, the Hex is down, but Hanskin stun through. The Courier delivers, but MP cleared up with the Courier. Chessie blinks aggressively and snipes it out as well. It brought the boots out, or the blades of attack, to that Invoker, but instead, they lose the Courier.
That was a dream scenario for MVP, or for Complexity, sorry. And MVP, I mean, there were mass pings on the Courier. I think that the Invoker expected it to be upgraded at that phase of the game. Pretty disappointed at his teammates, I think, with that. And at top, nobody really had a TP ready to even rotate forward. Maybe they could have gotten some sort of rebuttal kill onto Chessie, especially since he blinked forward for that, but not going to really lead to anything, and giving Queen of Pain the early advantage. And this is kind of what we expected, though, just because the Chen, not all of his camps are blocked out. He has a lot of time to kind of roam free. There's no jungler on the side of MVP. You have the Witch Doctor to slow him down, but looks like they're going to go for this top tower too.
And with that one rotation, you're looking at Chen, who's level 4.5 already. The Lion hits level 3. Just from that one kill on the Invoker, they've already got themselves a great amount of experience and a nice little chip of gold. Queen of Pain, it's still a kind of an awkward lane with Tornado being thrown out to harass, and they'll need these supports to rotate in numerous times to try and control up this MP Invoker. While Forev, you know, in the meantime, he's been relatively free getting his experience at bottom lane. While Limp does have his treads, dealing with these Iron Shell creeps is a nasty, nasty prospect, and Forev, he's realized, shoved out the lane, it's fine. Don't want to get caught out by the Lion. I've got no observer ward down there giving me vision, so he can just actually farm across onto this camp.
Yeah, and Hanskin briefly shows himself bottom, I think just to show Forev that he's willing to camp there, and that's a lot of kill potential. I think the Lion plus any sort of nuke damage hero can kill pretty much anybody in the lane, and that's a Tiny that's level 6. So Forev definitely doesn't want to mess with that. He's just going to go back to the base. The thing, though, is with a hero like Darkseer, you almost never want to sack him. Like, this is a hero that was meant to be in the lane, to shove out the creep wave and to be aggressive with the Ion Shell.
Now, I was actually just about to ask you, who's been stacking this camp? Was it the Tidehunter or was it the Venge? And it's actually Febby. Now, is that for Darkseer to come across and clear through? Because Spectre's not the best at clearing at all.
I think both of them did it. There was a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Well, here's Forev anyway. I'll answer the question. The Iron Shells do a great job. The double Wildwing, double Hellbear camp. Gonna be a lot of gold. Push him up to what, level 6 pretty much. Get him to a good amount of change as well, probably about 800 or so.
I think Febby's gonna soak some of this experience up. So is coL, but still pretty sizable amount of farm.
Looks like coL wants a few of the last hits as well. Getting in there cheekily. MP holding his own against the Queen of Pain for now, though, as Chessie, dead even pretty much, apart from the 4 denies out from MP. As they move themselves forward again, Hanskin and Z-Freak. Chen and Lion pairing up once more, and an almost perfect combination of creeps. The Dark Troll to start, double Centaur stomps, and the Lion with a long-range Earth Spike. I think they want to try and kill a Spectre. coL has had Really a great free time up at top. 43 last hits, just, you know, racking up these nice little creeps. Don't want this to last any longer, and level 5 Tidehunter with a gush to start things off. QO, he didn't realize that behind him is the Lion with the Chen. The support comes in, TP, QO, he's gonna try and run this one out. Tornado's good with the EMP and the stick charges, keep QO alive, but Limp misses the avalanche, the denial. No, it's the surge. QO will sprint himself away. Oh, the Mango, the gush not there available, and the Fog of War. Is QO really gonna get away from this? Up into the high ground, the ramp as well, and QO juking, jiving. He's got another dagger. He has another dagger, another surge as well for him. TP away, and QO, count your lucky stars. Barely escaping, but MP, maybe not so lucky. Sonic Wave from Chessie comes in with the big guns, and Febby gonna try and TP out. Toss in one, not quite available to cancel out the teleportation.
Still, really good rotation by Chessie. That fight lasts so long, and all their objectives were on trying to save QO that they don't even notice that the Queen of Pain comes in. Great kill by him as Z-Freak is getting really low here for Haunt.
Yeah, in with the dagger as well, and QO secures himself.
I think they re-engage here.
Easy kill. There's no cask and no dagger remaining. If they had the Darks here a little closer with the Iron Shell Surge, maybe QO goes and chases that one down.
Yeah.
No, we're so used to seeing Ember Spirit Darks here, that lawnmower effect with Flame Guard plus the Iron Shell. Spectre is a similar story, just with the Desolate damage.
Yeah, that was definitely a fight that QO wanted to continue, but nobody from his team unfortunately was ready. And that's the one thing, is you're almost always going to have the Invoker set up things for our MVP, and that's why Complexity, they're making it kind of just a statement and a point to try to get as aggressive on him as possible. And they've done a good job of that so far. They've really slowed down his farm. Whereas Chessie in a game like this has done pretty well for himself. Has 35 CS, pretty adequate, and more importantly than that, he is out-leveling the Invoker.
MP, phase boots, has he got anything else on the courier? It doesn't look like he does. Only 500 net worth. He is dragging a little bit behind. He does have the ability, though, to start really roaming this map and control things up once he has, like, you know, level 7, level 8. Got the Tornado with the EMP. And actually, you do a great job at not only looking and aiming for engagements that he can begin himself, but also counter-initiate or actually hold these tier 1 towers, which Complexity... At what point does the Radiant look to actually pressure into towers?
I think when you get the Blink Dagger on the Tiny is a pretty good idea. Just because you want some way to start up the fights and you want to be able to abuse the Ravage. I think once you get the Blink Dagger on the Tiny, there's almost no chance that you can fight into Complexity's lineup. Limp initiates on somebody. If Swindles is right behind him, what ends up happening is, do you want to take a fight against the Ravage?
Chessie barely gets the blink window.
He has haste as well.
Oh, that's true. And 7 stick charges. He was probably fine regardless, but MVP gave it a shot. See what they could do.
It was a good attempt. What they're trying to get him to do is pop that haste so that he can't use it for a TP rotation in. And that's a pretty good idea.
Oh, Forev. Headdress Soul Ring with the Arcane Boots, actually. His primary
Chessie.
pickup, Chessie. He's got the haste and blink away.
Really low. Is that a Haunt?
Yeah, pinging out. Yeah, it was. Haunt is on cooldown. QO jumped from top lane down towards the top rune spot.
That is surprising that he went for that against the hasted Queen of Pain. Haunt's gonna bottom. Just gotta be careful. He is pretty low. Both sides are low.
Speedy little frog will retreat out. Febby just outside of the range of that one, but this is still a play that MVP love to do. I think close to 80% of their smokes come behind this tier 1 tower at mid lane. They love it just because of the dynamic ability to switch between top, mid, jungle, and maybe even dive in behind enemy tier 1s. But it's Hanskin that gets spotted out first in the clip on the back end. The Tiny gets tornadoed as well with the wall drop. Limp. He's going to be trapped with the cast, bouncing back onto him. But Lion escapes with a 2-man Earth Spike, and now Swindles. He has entered the battle, but not throwing out his Ravage just yet. MVP, it's time to retreat because Chessie on the high ground looking for the jump forward, not blinking aggressively just yet, but the Sonic Wave clears up Dubu's Witch Dog to the stun back. MP and Febby, oh, hot retreat, get the hell out of here. I think Vengeful Spirit just gonna give up your life for this one. There is really limited opportunities to retrieve the Venge from the waiting arms of Complexity as they run forward and don't even expend their Ravage.
And you get to see why that Haunt usage was so confusing for me, because their mid-game timing gets completely messed up as a result. They wanted to be able to use the Haunt. They probably would have picked up 2 kills for free on the side of the Spectre.
Good EMP Tornado cast, gonna try and bounce with the Ravage with Swindles. Pop before the mana burn is there and sent back by the Chen. Looks like he'll be able to complete this and go back to Fountain. MVP again. amass the hordes of heroes towards the tier 1 mid to try and have this 5v5 spot from Hanskin. Febby catches the line as he tries to TP out, but the Hex return. Febby is a little froggy. Cask is bouncing, and Hanskin will drop in that river area.
Yeah, and Kira's pinging for top tower. They want to be able to take this out, but he doesn't want to get it into deny range quite yet. And MVP, that's a really good hold for them, and probably the biggest thing is that the Ravage was expended and nothing was lost as a result. They were able to just pick up a free kill. But as I was saying at bottom, the main reason why the Haunt felt so wonky to me is because I think even in the context of if maybe they get the Queen of Pain kill, like it's less than 40% chance, and more importantly, you know that MVP likes to make that dive into the enemy safe lane, and especially when you're on the dire side, like inherently what you want to do is you want to get rid of this half of the map for Radiant. You just want to be able to control it, and with a hero like Darkseer you can, because you can continuously push the lane out while clearing the waves. That's a free information game for you, because every single time you shove in the lane, that means nobody's farming the left side of the jungle. And so what MVP does is they rotate these two heroes down to try to get the safe lane and just get like a free pick off. Then the Haunt comes in, then you've got an unlosable fight right there. So for him to use it earlier on, that's definitely a misstep. It's like one of those things that goes beyond just missing out on the kill. It kind of messes with your team's
The
timing.
ramifications later on.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like I'm being nitpicky, but I know MVP, that's something that they're going to talk about as soon as the game ends. Like, you shouldn't have to do that.
Well, this observer board pretty much going to give vision for the exact situation you're talking about. But that's MVP and what they want to do, or what they wanted to do. Complexity, on the other hand, do they just mirror MVP and they go for the top tier 1?
I think for them it's a little bit different just because they need their Chen there, because you need buffer heroes no matter what. And for example, for MVP, that's the one thing that they don't necessarily have. I guess for the Darkseer, it's a little bit different because they can skip creep waves with it and Ion Shell between things. But for Complexity, it's a little bit different because you need summons inherently in this patch, I think, to just safely push. And the Chen is mainly focused on trying to go for the ganks and slow down the timing of this Invoker. So you're not really seeing him gather up that army and just go tower to tower. And I don't really think he can to begin with, just because of the Witch Doctor plus the Invoker. That's a Quaswex Invoker. It's so hard to push into that.
It really is difficult if MP can get himself in position for that Tornado EMP, and he's spent a bunch of his money. It looks like it's the Bracer again. And it's been kind of interesting watching this build come back. You know, we saw Miracle do it at the Frankfurt Major. Miracle and We Are doing that whole Phase Boots Drums Yule Scepter, and that used to be like the build for Invoker. Then we saw, you know, people switch back to the Orchid Urn for the Cold Snap procs on the Urn damage as well. What is it about this build that makes it so popular for Invoker now?
Going for Quaswex or going for the drums?
Going for the drums and the stats into it.
It's just really tanky. I mean, the biggest thing is that when you go for the Quaswex, you go at the drums, it's really hard to gank, because you're running at almost near max move speed, and you get around the map really quickly to set up for things, because that's what you want with Quaswex and Invoker. You just want to be all around the map continuously. But I think the main reason he's going for Quaswex as opposed to the Exort in a game like this is pretty cool. It's just because they want to be able to defend all their tier 1s and make it difficult. You want to slow down the timing of Radiant inherently just so that your Spectre can get absolute farm in a game like this. And when you've got all their tier 1s available, it makes it really difficult for you to pressure into the spec. Then he can just kind of farm out his jungle, which he's been doing back and forth, if you noticed. And by keeping all the tier 1s alive this early into the game, it means that MVP can instantly respond. And Complexity, if you look at their lineup, the timing is on them. Like, they're the team that have to rotate for this. So when you've got a hero like Invoker, it's mainly used just for defensive purposes and to set up haunt kills around the map.
Dire's top tower.
Well, the dagger will curve around the trees onto the tiny but swindles. He takes the tier 1 up at top, 900 gold now, and Limbo actually went back for the drums, so he's just trying to pad out his stats as well.
You see it right here? So Forev goes for the wave skip, right? Because this is the safest way for them to push because they need the buffer range. And look what MVP do. They send both these heroes down, but Complexity responded this really smartly, and it doesn't feel like it's smart because they're not doing anything, but that's the biggest thing. They've given up on their safe lane. They know that there are heroes down there.
And by giving up on that safe lane, they're going to try and find a kill on the Dooku here. The Haunt will come through. They killed off the poor little Witch Doctor already, but coL with the drums, he's going to try and tank through it, but the Finger of Death, the toss, the stick charges, keeps him alive. The swap back from Febby will catch him. Hanskin burns through from the EMP, but Limp is on the wrong side of the river, and Swindles without a Ravage cannot do too much here. Chessie, Blink available, gets himself back behind the tier 1, but it's a vacuum from Forever to Z-Freak. There's a Sonic Wave. If Chessie wants to fight as he's bottling up, maybe biding his time for a moment to jump. But MVP just have too much in the tank for Complexity to have any kind of rebuttal.
And that's what you really want to get out of your Haunt, is one of those inescapable fights for Complexity. They don't have the Ravage quite available yet in MVP. They're making quick use of that time. And instead of going for the bottom tier one, they're going to go for this mid one, but I highly doubt that Complexity is going to want to give this one up.
And with all his earn charges and healing up, the rest of MVP, they're pretty much full HP. Swindles, oh, he's got his Ravage in 10, but his QO, the Sonic Wave down. The Tornado will catch a couple here, but Febby on the retreat out. The maximum for Rev keeps the Vengeful Spirit at a decent amount of life. But it's only death that she will find up on the top of those stairs.
Yeah, I'm really confused that they decided to go for that fight, because Swindle didn't even have to pop the Ravage for that, but the mid positioning is so hard for them to be able to take, and they don't have any frontliners. We talked about that being the issue for their team, right? And so the bottom lane tower makes sense just because you can skip reliably through this creep wave and it's hard for Radiant to respond, but for that mid one, you're just gonna have to frontline a Quaswex Invoker who doesn't have Horde Spirits or a Spectre, and it kind of feels like MVP are just being a little bit too sloppy, and Complexity, the fact that they were able to win that fight without having to expend too much. Most of this just comes from Chessie's excellent positioning. He decided to stay in the fight with 500 HP.
He bottled up as much as he could, and he knew that he had the damage as long as he didn't blink aggressively into a position where he gets stunned up.
Oh, they could steal this Ancient stack.
Well,
I think this is almost just as important for Complexity to defend.
Complexity, Z-Freak in a good position, the stomps. Oh, QO slides down, gonna look for the Chen, damage output there, QO trying to rip him apart, the Tornado will be off the mark, but the Horn is there, the Ravage back onto QO and Forever, the TP away, but Hanskin, 2-man Earth Spike, he's trying to man up against these two beefy, tanky heroes, but it's
Hanskin gets nailed by the
MP.
creep.
The Ancient will clear up the line, but it's the second part of the fight where MP gets a double kill. Queen of Pain with the Chen.
Yeah, the Queen of Pain is the big kill there, because you want to slow down the momentum of this hero as much as you can. Queen of Pain, the reason why she got a little bit less popular is just because you kill her once, like Alina or anything like that, then you slow down the momentum of her item timings. Inherently, she's not very tanky, which is why I think there's some merit in going for the Aghanims first nowadays. Going for the Orchid is good if you're playing aggressively, which she is in a game like this, but with QO being able to take her down so quickly and chase her down, it's a little bit dangerous.
Yeah, I maybe thought that without, any real great instant disables against the Queen of Pain, you've got Venge Magic Missile, Cask is kind of there. But this Invoker, MP is making the most of his Tornado EMP, his Cold Snap is holding this Queen of Pain in place numerous times and making sure she cannot blink out, but also setting up for the Magic Missile, which does have that projectile time.
Yeah, MVP inherently, this is a little bit of a deviation. This is the second style that they like to play where they're going to go for something a little bit more late game oriented. Because most of the time they almost always pick something that either has a summon or can push forward with them. But in a game like this, they opt to go for the late game, and we talked about it in the pregame after we saw the Invoker performance last game. He's made the switch going for the Hand of Midas. I think he learned that he just got way too far behind in farm last game.
And we're also seeing the Vengeful Spirit, the build, exactly how you're talking about it, with the Vengeful being leveled up to 2 already. Swindles, maybe trying to bait MVP into a battle they can't take. Hanskin, Febby surge forward, looking for the swap. The high ground vision isn't available, and Hanskin might be able to stun and TP. He'll go for it and attempt this, and it looks like he's out actually. Febby not gonna scrape past and will not get the disable onto him.
Yeah, and MVP, they really don't want to give up this mid tower. They've already lost the top one, so control their jungle's wide open here. That's all you see MVP just rotating heroes to filter in.
Spam out the Tornado, with the Haunt, they want to fight. Limp has no mana left, and QO, he's actually in the thick of things. Limp, they try to send him back to base, but the Death Ward is down. Swindle, he might have to Ravage, he doesn't even have it. 10 seconds on cooldown, and Febby, he swapped one back, he's looking for the stun. 5 seconds remaining, the blink from the Queen of Pain will send her up onto the high ground. But Hanskin's alone here with Z-Freak, but it's not! Jesse returns with a Sonic Wave back, and Limp has returned with this Tiny to clear up 2, 3, and maybe even a 4th. Febby in a ton of trouble. Killed off with the Hanskin line in the back. MVP, they're not done just yet, and somehow this Vengeful Spirit is still alive. Jesse can't get the kill, and he's going to be forced to blink away. The Tiny have a toss, there's Dubu. A messy, scrappy fight.
It did cost them the buyback though on the Tiny. And so when you look at the fight recap, it still tips in favor of MVP despite losing 2 of the cores there.
Expensive stuff for the Tiny, drops him down to 700 gold. I mean, after the Treads drums, You really want that Blink Dagger or even just progressing into, you know, your Agnum Scepter, depending where you want to go.
Yeah, I think that was a really good buyback though by Lim. He needed to be able to salvage that fight. If MVP wins that fight and they defend their mid tower right there, then the game just slows down so much, and you can't afford that anymore. We talked about it. coL is just trying to passively farm up the Radiance and Complexity. They can't afford this hero to just get farmed because they don't have their own one position that can keep up anymore. Because the Tiny's gone for the buyback. He's been participating in most of the fights. Inherently, this is a hero that relies heavily on being ahead. Whereas a hero like Spectre is meant to play from behind. The fact that he's the highest net worth in the game, that's got to scare Complexity so much.
And they've revealed the Orchid on Chessie now, and they're going to try and TP in to try and keep him alive. But it's Chen, the smoke wrap in from MP, Death Ward out, and Chen not long for this world, as maybe even his creeps get cleared up here by the Iron Shell of Forev. So that's not just Chen dead for 30 seconds, but that's also another minute or so on top of that, rebuilding your army.
Yeah, and it goes beyond that too, is that because you've been able to save the mid tower's MVP, you delay the timings even further, you protect your own jungle. This top lane gets even harder for Complexity to be able to defend out, because most of the time they can just defend into the tier 1 mid and make some kind of play smoking in. But
look at how much gold coL has.
Yeah, he's just playing as safe as possible. Once he has the relic, once he has the Radiance, Complexity like they get limited opportunity.
MP initiate the top forward of the Ravage Swindles. Oh, he gets them. MP and Forever, the horn comes through, and Chessie stunned up. Can't Sonic Wave forces it back down onto MP and Dubu, but it's the turn. MVP, Glimmer K-pop 1, and Forever has the mech. Heals himself up with the Greaves as well. Tornado to cancel out any further initiation. And Swindles, he's in the middle, but he has nothing left to give. Heals his team up with the mech back onto it, but the sustain from MVP is just too much to handle. With another Glimmer from Febby, he's going to try and steal the haste. He's sprinting away. Stun back on the Chessie to got him. Febby, godlike plays from the Vengeful Spirit, and coL still hunting down, mowing through the ranks of Complexity. The Iron Shield Spectre now surging out, and Hanskin, he cannot catch a break.
And the bigger prize right there is that mid tier 1 tower as MVP further established themselves on the map, somehow being able to take all the tier 1 towers despite not really having inherent pushing heroes, and co's going to finish the Sacred Relic as a result of that. At one point, Limp had 4 HP, but manages to TP out. You've got the Eul Scepter now on MP. A lot of defensive items coming out on them as Febby now has the Glimmer Cape. It's going to be even harder for Complexity to catch up and keep up.
You can see the shift of warding as well. You know, you mentioned the ward down north of the tier 1 before, but that part of the map, it's extending and extending and extending for MVP as they just cut this all off. Complexity to a point where their jungle just becomes so unsafe.
Yeah, the biggest thing about winning fights like that and taking out the mid tier 1 is that it's so hard for them to rotate in that you effectively, like you said, you get this much lane room to play with, and coL can just shove in the lanes. You can probably even play one more lane safely before Complexity to respond. And Complexity have to respond to this. Like, it's an information game at that point, because if MVP, they push out this bottom lane and nobody from Complexity responds to this, that means you can logically infer that they're either A, in your jungle, or B, they're playing around the mid area, or they're smoked up.
Febby gets the deny. And I think MVP, they went for the idea that they're in the jungle, but Complexity, they've only got the Tidehunter up there.
Yeah, that's a completed Radiance now too. And you notice that they're not willing to go into their own jungle without first going for a smoke or anything like that, because, again, they shoved in the bottom lane, nobody's defending it. That should tip them off almost immediately that they're in their jungle. So that's why they're doubling back into their jungle instead of the enemy jungle, because they know for a fact nobody's still defended the bottom lane. And this is what makes it so big to be able to take those 2 towers.
Maybe you look for the Haunt to initiate MP. He's going to go in with the Glimmer Cave. He spots out Hanskin, and there's the Haunt, the vacuum back to the wall. Of course, Swindles, the Ravage comes through, but Hanskin's already dead, so just the Haunt illusion. Febby and MP on the back end still yet to expend any spells, and they are just absolutely destroying Complexity. An ultra kill for coL. And MVP, full 5-man wipe Complexity without losing a bar of health.
Yeah, and again, that's just because they knew for a fact that they were there. MVP, they logically deduced, because nobody was defending that bottom lane after the second wave, they were all in their jungle. They immediately go for the smoke play. The initiation by the Darkseer was absolutely massive for them. And the coL Radiance, we talked about it, how much this changes the hero. The power spike on it is unbelievable.
Hanskin just ceased to exist. Haunt happened and Lion died.
Yeah, you can't really survive against it, and what makes it even harder is that the Tidehunter doesn't really know what he's going to ravage. like MVP spreads up. There's no real great target for them. The Queen of Pain, the downside of the Orchid, of course, is that you have 900 HP. You can't really re-engage, and that's what you want to do with a hero like Queen of Pain.
Even TPing to tier 2s here, just trying to get across the map as fast as you can. You know, Chessie into the Dire jungle, try and push top lane with your Lion, but MVP, they don't have vision up on this high ground just yet. They will soon. Oh, it's a sentry to try and de-ward across. Complexity, of course. They'll be looking for these safeguard wards, watching for entrances into their jungle area, but Swindles, he's actually dealing with his ancient stack reasonably well. And his Greaves aren't far away, but I think at this point, do you look for the Blink Dagger, or do you want to go for like a pipe against the Radiance?
I'm not sure. I think pipe is better. I think the bigger thing is that Chessie just needs to split push now. That's the one thing that they have going for them is if it doesn't come to a straight 5-on-5 fight, they can do something, but unfortunately the lanes aren't quite pushed in, and Kyo's got an Aegis.
Kyo's not happy about the Wild Wing. Screw your tornado. I want this tier 3. But the Complexity, they have to respond. There needs to be an answer to this, but 20 seconds until Ravage is ready for Swindles. And with the 8, just like you're mentioning on QO, the vacuum back with 3-man walls, well, the Hornet's forward and limp. Swindles, Hans can stunt up a couple of illusions, but is QO just running straight forward for the Chen with a Hand of God popping. Alacrity QO burns through. And MVP diving into tier 4s, toss back, Swindles, he's in the mix, he's got his Ravage, but the Aegis is down, and the buybacks come out of Complexity. QO might be in trouble, the well-timed Ravage catches the Spectre, and they've got him, Finger of Death, Death Ward is there for the Tornado, look at Complexity, they've spent so much on that one hero, that MVP, they've got free reign with the Invoker, a triple kill for MP, and even Limp buys back to TP in, but I'm not sure he'll get much done.
Yeah, that was the buyback expended from Chessie too.
And
That's all of his gold. Limp at least wants this.
Perfectly placed, slowing them down. They cannot run and cannot hide. Hanskin at least gets the 2-man Earth Spike, the Hex in the back into the Ice Wall again. They've got them trapped and stuck and Limp. Dive back with Swindles, nothing left to give. He's got a mech and an Anchor Smash, but he's got no life remaining to actually stand up against this MVP lineup, and Limp calls a GG. Complexity taps out against MVP, who progress through 2-0 victory for MVP Phoenix over Complexity.
I mean, for a second, after MVP's run, I know a lot of people said maybe their style will get figured out, maybe this was a fluke run, but I mean, they're proving that no fluke indeed, and Complexity, you know, they had a great showing. They were able to knock out VP in the last game. It looked like they might have had MVP on the ropes for a second, but GG for them as MVP move on to the finals.